What if we told you that Kobe Bryant almost played Jesus Shuttlesworth? Michael Jordan appeared in the film before even he wore the sneakers on court, and a 31-year-old Harvard Law graduate convincingly played a teenager? Spike Lee's basketball masterpiece, He Got Game, is packed with behind-the-scenes secrets, casting surprises, and production quirks that are stranger than fiction. From the unexpected musical collaboration between Public Enemy and a classical composer, to the real reason the film's sneakers became iconic, these bizarre facts reveal the wild journey of making one of cinema's greatest sports films. Fact 1. Kobe's airball nightmare cost him the lead role. When Spike Lee was developing He Got Game in 1997, he had one clear vision for the lead role of Jesus Shuttlesworth. Kobe Bryant, the young Lakers guard, fresh off his rookie season, seemed like the perfect fit for the character of a high school basketball phenom facing life-changing decisions. Bryant had the youth, the skills, and the emerging star power that Lee was looking for in his basketball drama. But then came Game 5 of the Western Conference semifinals against the Utah Jazz, a moment that would change both basketball history and movie casting forever. With the Lakers trailing 3-1 and facing elimination, the 19-year-old Bryant stepped up to take crucial shots in the final moments. What happened next became one of the most infamous sequences in playoff history. Bryant launched 4 consecutive air balls, missing badly on each attempt as the Lakers' season came to a crushing end. The devastating loss hit Bryant harder than anyone could imagine. Rather than dwelling on the embarrassment, he made a decision that would define his legendary work ethic. When Spike Lee approached him about starring in He Got Game that summer, Bryant politely declined the opportunity. His reasoning was simple but telling. He couldn't afford to spend time on a movie set when he desperately needed every moment to improve his game. Bryant later explained his mindset during that period, saying the summer was too important for his development as a player. He had just experienced the brutal reality of playoff basketball and knew he needed to dedicate himself completely to becoming better. The young guard planned an intensive workout regimen designed to prepare him for the longer NBA seasons and the mental pressure of high-stakes games. So while Bryant went on to become one of basketball's greatest players, winning 5 championships and earning countless accolades, Ray Allen stepped into the role that might have been Kobe's first major acting credit. Those 4 air balls in Utah didn't just end a season. They redirected the casting of one of basketball cinema's most beloved films. Fact 2. The film was shot in just 23 days. He Got Game was filmed in an astonishingly short 23 days, a timeline that seems almost impossible considering the scope and complexity of the production. For context, most major Hollywood films take anywhere from 30 to 90 days to complete principal photography, making Spike Lee's achievement with this basketball drama truly remarkable. The compressed shooting schedule becomes even more impressive when you consider everything the production team had to accomplish during those 3 weeks between July and September of 1997. The film required extensive basketball sequences that needed to look authentic and professional, featuring both NBA players and actors who had to convincingly portray elite athletes. These scenes demanded careful choreography, multiple camera angles, and numerous takes to capture the fluid motion and intensity of competitive basketball. Beyond the sports action, the production also involved shooting in multiple cities and diverse locations across the country. The crew filmed scenes in Coney Island and Brooklyn in New York, traveled to the Cabrini Green housing projects in Chicago, Illinois, made stops at Elon University in Charlotte, North Carolina, and completed additional work in Los Angeles, California. Each location change required moving equipment, coordinating with local authorities, and adapting to different environments and lighting conditions. The tight schedule also meant that Spike Lee had to work with a large ensemble cast that included established stars like Denzel Washington, NBA players making their acting debuts like Ray Allen, and numerous cameo appearances from basketball legends including Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, and Charles Barkley. Coordinating the availability of so many high-profile participants within such a narrow window required precise planning and execution. This breakneck pace of filming demonstrates Lee's efficiency as a director and his ability to maintain creative vision while working under extreme time constraints. The 23-day shooting schedule forced everyone involved to be completely prepared and focused, leaving no room for extended deliberation or multiple attempts at perfecting scenes. Fact 3. A 31-year-old Harvard lawyer played a teenager. Hill Harper, who played the teenage character Coleman Booger Sykes in He Got Game, was actually 31 years old during filming, making him old enough to be the father of the high school students he was supposed to be portraying alongside. This age gap becomes even more remarkable when you consider Harper's impressive educational background and professional accomplishments at the time of the movie's production. Harper wasn't just any 31-year-old trying to pass for a teenager. He was a highly educated lawyer with credentials that would make most people twice his age envious. He had graduated magna cum laude from Brown University in 1988 with a Bachelor of Arts degree, demonstrating his academic excellence from an early age. But Harper didn't stop there in his educational pursuits. He went on to attend Harvard Law School, where he earned his Juris Doctor degree cum laude, putting him among the top graduates of one of the most prestigious law schools in the country. As if that wasn't impressive enough, Harper also completed a master's degree in public administration from Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, giving him expertise in both legal and governmental affairs. During his time at Harvard, Harper was actually classmates with a future United States Senator and presidential candidate, Barack Obama, showing the caliber of students he was studying alongside. While pursuing his law degree, Harper also became involved with Boston's Black Folks Theater Company, which helped prepare him for his eventual transition into acting. In the film, Harper convincingly portrayed Booger as Jesus Shuttlesworth's teammate and friend on the Lincoln High School basketball team, bringing a natural ease to the role despite the significant age difference between himself and the character he was playing. His performance was so believable that most viewers had no idea they were watching someone who could have been practicing law instead of shooting hoops on a high school basketball court. Fact 4. Jesus was named after Earl, the Pearl Monroe, not Christ. The character Jesus Shuttlesworth wasn't named after the biblical figure that most viewers would assume, but rather after NBA legend Earl Monroe, whose electrifying playground style earned him the nickname Black Jesus on the courts of North Philadelphia. This connection runs much deeper than just the name, as Monroe actually served as the technical advisor for all basketball sequences throughout the film, sitting right next to Spike Lee during every basketball scene that was shot. Earl Monroe, who later became known as Earl the Pearl, was a basketball revolutionary who brought streetball creativity to the professional level during his career with the Baltimore Bullets and New York Knicks from 1967 to 1980. On the playgrounds of Philadelphia, where he developed his skills, other players called him Jesus because of his seemingly supernatural ability to make impossible shots and moves that defied explanation. The film actually includes a powerful scene where Jake Shuttlesworth, played by Denzel Washington, explains the true origin of his son's name to Jesus himself. In this moment, Jake reveals that his all-time favorite player was Earl Monroe, particularly during Monroe's early years with the Baltimore Bullets, when he was averaging over 40 points per game at Winston-Salem State College. Jake explains how Monroe was simply called Jesus on the Philadelphia playgrounds because he was the truth, but when the white media picked up the story, they felt compelled to add black in front of Jesus, as if he couldn't just be Jesus on his own. Monroe's involvement as technical advisor brought authenticity to every basketball sequence in the film, ensuring that the movements, plays, and overall flow of the game looked genuine and reflected the streetball culture that had shaped his own legendary career. His presence on set created a direct link between the fictional Jesus Shuttlesworth and the real basketball legend who inspired the character's name and playing style. Fact 5. Michael Jordan wore the shoes. Before Michael Jordan, the Air Jordan 13 sneakers that became iconic in He Got Game appeared on movie screens before Michael Jordan himself had ever worn them in an actual NBA game, creating a bizarre situation where fictional characters were sporting unreleased shoes that even their namesake hadn't debuted yet. When Spike Lee was filming during the summer of 1997, the Air Jordan 13s were still in the final stages of development and wouldn't be available to the public until the 1997 holiday season. Spike Lee managed to get his hands on early sample pairs of the sneakers through his long-standing relationship with Nike and Michael Jordan that dated back to 1988, when Lee first appeared alongside Jordan in commercials as his character Mars Blackman from the film She's Gotta Have It. This connection gave Lee access to unreleased products that would become central to the film's visual identity. The timing of the film's production created this unusual scenario where the shoes appeared in a major motion picture before Jordan had the chance to wear them during the Chicago Bulls championship run. The movie wrapped principal photography just days before Jordan and the Bulls faced the Boston Celtics, meaning the shoes made their debut in a Spike Lee joint rather than on the basketball court where Jordan was making history. Ray Allen, who was already a member of Nike's original Team Jordan along with players like Michael Finley and Derek Anderson, was surprised to discover that even he didn't have access to the new sneakers. When Allen arrived on set in Brooklyn, he found that Spike Lee and Denzel Washington had pairs of the unreleased Jordan 13s, while he, an actual Jordan brand athlete, was left wondering how the filmmakers had obtained shoes that weren't even available to sponsored players yet. This early product placement proved to be incredibly effective, as audiences immediately associated the white, black, and red sneakers with the film, eventually leading to them being nicknamed the He Got Game 13s in sneaker culture. Fact 6. 2 completely different soundtracks were released. He Got Game featured one of the most unusual musical approaches in film history, with 2 completely separate soundtracks released simultaneously that represented opposite ends of the musical spectrum. The first soundtrack was created by hip-hop legends Public Enemy and released on April 28, 1998, under Def Jam Records, while the second featured classical orchestral compositions by Aaron Copland and was released a week earlier on April 21st. This dual soundtrack approach created an unprecedented collaboration between rap music and classical orchestration that had never been attempted on such a scale in Hollywood filmmaking. Spike Lee made the bold decision to use both musical styles throughout the movie, weaving together the raw energy of Public Enemy's beats with the sweeping grandeur of Copland's American classical pieces. The Public Enemy soundtrack served as the group's 6th studio album and included 13 tracks that directly tied into the film's themes about basketball, urban life, and the pressures facing young athletes. The title track heavily sampled Buffalo Springfield's classic song For What It's Worth, and even featured the original songwriter Stephen Stills making a special guest appearance on the recording. Meanwhile, the Aaron Copland soundtrack featured some of America's most recognizable classical compositions, including pieces from his ballets and symphonies that had been written decades earlier. Spike Lee explained his reasoning for this unusual choice by saying that when he listened to Copland's music, he heard America itself, and since basketball represented America to him, the combination made perfect sense. The classical soundtrack opened with Copland's John Henry, which provided the musical backdrop for the film's opening montage of basketball images, creating a powerful contrast between urban street basketball and traditional American orchestral music. This musical experiment demonstrated Lee's willingness to take creative risks and challenge conventional ideas about how film soundtracks should work, resulting in 2 albums that appealed to completely different audiences while serving the same cinematic vision. Fact 7. Allen Iverson refused to audition for the role. Allen Iverson was actually Spike Lee's first choice to play Jesus Shuttlesworth, even before the director considered Kobe Bryant or any other NBA players for the starring role. Lee was drawn to Iverson's incredible boldness and swagger on the basketball court, qualities that perfectly matched the character he had written for the film. Iverson's authentic street credibility and natural charisma made him seem like an ideal fit for portraying a young basketball phenom navigating the pressures of recruitment and fame. However, when Spike Lee approached Iverson about the opportunity, the Philadelphia 76ers guard surprised everyone by declining to audition for the part. Iverson's reasoning was straightforward, but revealing of his personality. He wanted the role without having to prove himself through the traditional audition process that other actors and players were going through. This decision reflected Iverson's confidence and his belief that his reputation and natural abilities should speak for themselves. At the time, Iverson was already establishing himself as one of the most exciting and controversial players in the NBA, known for his fearless playing style and unwillingness to conform to traditional expectations. His refusal to audition demonstrated the same independent streak that would define his entire professional career. Spike Lee found himself in an unusual position, as most actors would jump at the chance to audition for a leading role in a major studio film, especially one directed by such a respected filmmaker. But Iverson's lack of acting experience, combined with his full commitment to basketball and his unwillingness to go through the audition process, made the collaboration impossible. Lee later noted that while Iverson possessed the authentic energy and rebellious charisma he was looking for in the character, the guard's reluctance to participate in the standard casting process ultimately ruled him out. This opened the door for other NBA players to audition, eventually leading to Ray Allen landing the career-defining role. Fact 8. The Hoop Dreams stars made secret cameos. Arthur Agee and William Gates, the 2 Chicago teenagers who became famous as the subjects of the critically acclaimed documentary Hoop Dreams, make brief but meaningful appearances in He Got Game's opening basketball montage sequence, playing themselves as part of the film's celebration of basketball culture. Their inclusion represents a deliberate connection between Spike Lee's fictional basketball story and one of the most powerful real-life basketball documentaries ever made. Hoop Dreams, released in 1994, followed Agee and Gates for several years as they pursued their dreams of becoming professional basketball players while navigating the challenges of growing up in inner-city Chicago. The documentary became a cultural phenomenon and earned widespread critical acclaim for its honest portrayal of how basketball served as both hope and potential escape for young men facing difficult circumstances. By the time He Got Game was being filmed in 1997, both Agee and Gates had become recognizable figures in basketball culture, representing the countless young players across America who saw basketball as their path to a better life. Their stories resonated with audiences because they showed the reality behind the dreams, including the obstacles, disappointments, and hard choices that came with pursuing basketball at the highest levels. Spike Lee's decision to include Agee and Gates in his film's opening sequence served multiple purposes. It connected his fictional story about Jesus Shuttlesworth to the real experiences of actual young basketball players, adding authenticity to the film's themes about recruitment, pressure, and the exploitation of young athletes. Their presence also acknowledged the impact that Hoop Dreams had on how basketball stories were told in American cinema. The cameos were brief enough that casual viewers might not have noticed them, but for those familiar with Hoop Dreams, seeing Agee and Gates in the montage created an immediate connection between the documentary's real-world struggles and the fictional challenges that Jesus Shuttlesworth would face throughout Lee's film. Fact 9. Ray Allen had never acted before in his life. Ray Allen's performance as Jesus Shuttlesworth in He Got Game becomes even more impressive when you realize that he had absolutely no acting experience whatsoever before Spike Lee cast him in the leading role. Allen was purely a basketball player at the time, focusing entirely on his career with the Milwaukee Bucks, and had never considered acting as something he might be capable of doing or even interested in pursuing. When Spike Lee offered Allen the role after approaching him during halftime of a Bucks vs. Knicks game at Madison Square Garden, Allen knew he would need serious preparation to pull off a convincing performance opposite seasoned actors like Denzel Washington. Recognizing the enormous challenge ahead of him, Allen committed to 8 weeks of intensive acting lessons with a professional acting coach before filming began. During these preparation sessions, Allen had to learn the fundamentals of acting from scratch, including how to memorize lines, understand character motivation, and work with other actors in scenes. He also had to master the technical aspects of film acting, such as hitting marks for camera positions, understanding different shot types, and maintaining consistency across multiple takes of the same scene. Allen later described his early auditions as feeling like make-believe, where he was simply going through the motions of reading lines without really understanding what he was doing. However, his breakthrough moment came during his third audition when he had to read scenes directly with Denzel Washington. Allen wrote in his autobiography that he felt an immediate chemistry between himself and Washington, and it was during this session that both he and Spike Lee realized he could handle the demands of the role. The 8 weeks of training proved essential to Allen's success in the film, as critics later praised his natural screen presence and ability to hold his own alongside Washington. Roger Ebert specifically noted that Allen represented that rarity, an athlete who can act, acknowledging how unusual it was for someone with no acting background to deliver such a convincing performance. Fact 10. The film features a continuity error with hotel signage. He Got Game contains a noticeable continuity error that reveals how the production team had to recreate certain locations rather than filming everything at the original site. The mistake involves the Kennedy Fried Chicken sign that appears outside the rundown Surf Hotel where Jake Shuttlesworth stays during his week of freedom from prison. In the establishing shot that follows Jake's car as he arrives at the hotel, viewers can clearly see the Kennedy Fried Chicken sign with 2 windows positioned directly above specific letters of the restaurant's name. The first window appears above the letters Chick, while the second window is positioned above the letter K in Kennedy, creating a specific visual layout that the camera captures during this introductory sequence. However, when Jake appears at his hotel room window in later scenes after the guards have left him alone, the same Kennedy Fried Chicken sign shows a completely different arrangement. Now the 2 windows are positioned above the letters NAD and N instead of their original locations, revealing that the production team had recreated the hotel exterior for these interior room shots. The error becomes even more obvious when you notice that the lighting around the Kennedy Fried Chicken sign has also changed between the different shots. Some of the decorative lights that surrounded the sign in the original establishing shot are either burnt out or missing entirely in the later scenes, and the remaining lights don't flash at the same time intervals as they did in the first sequence. This type of continuity mistake typically happens when filmmakers need to build studio sets or recreate locations for practical reasons, such as better lighting control or easier camera access for interior scenes. The tight 23-day shooting schedule may have contributed to this oversight, as the crew likely didn't have time to ensure perfect consistency between the real location and the recreated version used for the hotel room scenes. Fact 11. Stephen Stills personally appeared on the soundtrack. Stephen Stills, the legendary musician and songwriter from Buffalo Springfield, made a special guest appearance on Public Enemy's title track, He Got Game, creating an unexpected collaboration between a 1960s rock icon and one of hip-hop's most influential groups. This partnership came about because Public Enemy heavily sampled Stills' classic 1966 song, For What It's Worth, as the foundation for their movie theme song. For What It's Worth was originally written by Stills during the height of the counterculture movement and became one of the most recognizable protest songs of the Vietnam War era. The song's distinctive guitar riff and memorable melody made it an anthem for social change and youth rebellion, themes that resonated with the story Spike Lee was telling in He Got Game about young athletes facing exploitation and difficult choices. When Public Enemy decided to build their title track around samples from Stills' composition, they took the unusual step of reaching out to the original artist to participate in the new version. Rather than simply using the samples without involving Stills, the collaboration brought together two different generations and musical styles in a way that honored both the original song's legacy and Public Enemy's innovative approach to hip-hop production. Stills' participation in the track represented a rare moment of cross-generational musical cooperation, as veteran rock musicians didn't often work directly with hip-hop artists during the late 1990s. His willingness to be part of the project showed both respect for Public Enemy's artistry and an understanding of how his original song's message about social change connected to the themes in Spike Lee's film. The collaboration was produced by Hank Shocklee and Keith Shocklee, members of Public Enemy's production team known as the Bomb Squad, who were famous for their innovative use of samples and their ability to layer different musical elements into complex, powerful tracks that supported the group's socially conscious lyrics. Fact 12. Jim Brown played a parole officer. Jim Brown, the legendary NFL running back who is widely considered one of the greatest football players of all time, took on the role of Spivey, one of Jake Shuttlesworth's parole officers in He Got Game. This casting choice was particularly interesting because Brown was known primarily for his athletic achievements and civil rights activism rather than his acting career, making his appearance in the film a notable surprise for audiences. Brown's football career with the Cleveland Browns from 1957 to 1965 established him as a dominant force in professional sports, leading the league in rushing yards for 8 of his 9 seasons and earning a place in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. However, after retiring from football at the peak of his career, Brown had transitioned into acting and appeared in several films during the 1960s and 70s, including The Dirty Dozen and Mars Attacks. In He Got Game, Brown's character Spivey serves as one of the authority figures assigned to monitor Jake during his temporary release from prison. The parole officers in the film represent the constant surveillance and control that Jake faces during his week of freedom, reminding both him and the audience that his liberty comes with strict conditions and the ever-present threat of being sent back to prison if he fails to accomplish his mission. Brown's natural commanding presence and serious demeanor made him well-suited for the role of a law enforcement official. His real-life reputation as someone who stood up for his principles and didn't back down from confrontation translated effectively to his portrayal of a no-nonsense parole officer who wouldn't tolerate any violations of Jake's release conditions. The casting of Brown also added another layer of athletic credibility to a film that already featured numerous sports figures, connecting the worlds of football and basketball, while emphasizing the broader themes about how professional sports intersect with issues of power, control, and social justice. Fact 13. The movie was filmed at Abraham Lincoln High School. All of the high school basketball scenes in He Got Game were filmed at the actual Abraham Lincoln High School in Brooklyn, New York, a location that brought incredible authenticity to the movie because this school had a legendary reputation for producing elite basketball talent. Spike Lee's decision to use this specific school wasn't just about convenience or aesthetics. Abraham Lincoln High School was already famous in basketball circles as one of the premier programs in New York City. The school's basketball program had a rich history of developing players who went on to have successful college and professional careers, making it the perfect setting for a story about a top high school prospect like Jesus Shuttlesworth. Most notably, the school had produced Stephen Marbury, who was already an established NBA star by the time the movie was being filmed in 1997. Marbury himself had actually been considered for the lead role in the film, which would have created an interesting situation where he was playing a fictional character at his own former high school. The connection between Marbury and Abraham Lincoln High School added another layer of realism to the production, as audiences familiar with New York basketball knew this was exactly the type of school that would produce a player of Jesus Shuttlesworth's caliber. Using the actual school also meant that the basketball sequences were filmed in a genuine high school gymnasium, with all the authentic details that would be impossible to recreate on a studio set. The worn wooden floors, the specific lighting, the bleacher arrangements, and even the acoustics of the gym all contributed to making the basketball scenes feel completely realistic. The choice to film at Abraham Lincoln High School demonstrated Spike Lee's commitment to authenticity and his deep understanding of New York basketball culture, ensuring that every detail of the high school scenes would resonate with audiences who knew the real world of competitive prep basketball. Fact 14. It was Spike Lee's first box office hit. He Got Game marked a significant milestone in Spike Lee's career by becoming the first film he directed to open at number 1 at the United States box office during its opening weekend. This achievement was particularly remarkable considering that Lee had already established himself as one of America's most respected and influential filmmakers through critically acclaimed movies like Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, and Jungle Fever, yet none of those earlier films had managed to capture the top spot during their initial releases. When He Got Game opened on May 1, 1998, it was shown on 1,319 screens across the country and earned $7,610,663 during its first weekend. This box office performance demonstrated that Lee's combination of basketball culture, star power from Denzel Washington, and the involvement of real NBA players had created a formula that appealed to mainstream audiences in a way that his previous films hadn't quite achieved. The commercial success represented a breakthrough moment for Lee, proving that he could maintain his artistic integrity and social commentary while also creating entertainment that drew large crowds to theaters. Prior to He Got Game, Lee's films had often been celebrated by critics and film scholars, but had struggled to find the broad audience appeal necessary to top the weekend box office charts. The number 1 opening also validated Lee's decision to cast real basketball players alongside established actors, as the authentic sports action and the cultural relevance of basketball helped the film reach audiences who might not typically attend Spike Lee movies. The presence of NBA stars like Ray Allen, along with cameo appearances from legends like Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal, created crossover appeal that brought sports fans into theaters alongside Lee's existing fan base. Unfortunately, despite this strong opening, the film's total domestic gross of $21,554,585 fell short of its $25 million budget. Fact 15. The film inspired Ray Allen's Miami Heat jersey. More than 15 years after He Got Game was released, Ray Allen demonstrated the lasting impact of his starring role by choosing to honor his character Jesus Shuttlesworth on his actual NBA uniform. During the 2013 to 2014 season, when the NBA introduced a special promotion allowing players to display nicknames or initials on the backs of their jerseys instead of their regular last names, Allen made a surprising and nostalgic choice for his Miami Heat uniform. Rather than selecting a nickname related to his basketball skills or personal life, Allen decided to wear J. Shuttlesworth on his jersey, directly referencing the character he had portrayed in Spike Lee's film. This decision showed how deeply the movie experience had affected Allen and how the character of Jesus Shuttlesworth had become permanently connected to his identity even during his professional basketball career. The timing of this tribute was particularly meaningful because Allen was playing for the Miami Heat during their championship years alongside LeBron James, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh. Allen had joined the Heat in 2012 and was in the midst of one of the most successful periods of his career, having already won his second NBA championship with the team and made several crucial playoff contributions. When Allen appeared on the court wearing the J. Shuttlesworth jersey, Spike Lee immediately took notice and shared his excitement on social media. Lee posted a photo of Allen wearing the jersey on his Instagram account, expressing his happiness and pride at seeing the character name displayed during an actual NBA game. This social media moment created a full-circle connection between the fictional basketball story Lee had created and the real professional career of the actor who had brought Jesus Shuttlesworth to life. The jersey choice also demonstrated Allen's appreciation for the role that had introduced him to acting and helped establish his cultural identity beyond just being known as one of the greatest three-point shooters in basketball history.